Love is just a state of understanding. And it's natural for us to crave it because we crave to be understood. Humans are pack animals. It's in our nature to want to be on the same page as the people around us. And love takes many forms too. As society would normally put it, being in love with someone is a one-person job. You and one other person, right? In some cultures it's different. But as we tend to see it, true love is between just two people. But love in the English language only has one word because it truly is only one emotion, just at varying intensities. Being in love with someone is just a state of being with someone in understanding. That is love. Being in a state of agreement and understanding with someone, that is love. Think about the connections you've made that are the strongest, when you really just click with someone and they seem to just get you. Would you not say that you have love for those people? Even if it isn't romantic love, you have love for those people. Right? I say I love you to my parents because I love them, but I am not romantically interested in my parents. But I have love for them. I understand that they are trying to raise me, and I'm grateful for that. Right? I understand them, and they understand me, and therefore we are in a state of understanding. We are in love, but not romantically in love. The phrase in love tends to only pursue the meaning of societal romance with two people. Right? Your husband, your wife. But technically, having love for someone and having that love reciprocated is a two-way understanding, and that is a state of being in love. And I'm going to break that down for you. To be is just to be you freely. So when I say a state of being, I mean it's a state of existing, a state of being a being. So when you say you love someone, what you really mean is you and I understand each other for who we are, and we appreciate one another. And our relationship, whether it's romantic or not, therefore has love, because love is just a state of understanding, right? Think about your friends. You love them, I hope. You don't have to be in love with your friends, and if you are, well, good luck. But you understand your friends. You're there for your friends, and your friends are there for you. That's what a friend is. You should always love your friend, because the qualification for being a friend is typically love. That's how you know what a true friend is when you truly love, when you truly understand somebody. Right? Who do you go to first when you're feeling down? A stranger? No, they won't understand what you're going through. They don't understand who you are. And you don't understand them. There's no love. I'll touch on that later. Loving strangers. But when you are hurt and you're down, you usually go to your family or your friends, the people who you'll say I love you to when you hang up the phone. Because you do love them. Tell someone you love them. Let them know you're grateful for them being in your life. Don't say it unless you mean it, of course, but hopefully whoever came to mind was someone who you'd mean it for. When you're down, you turn to people who understand you to give you a new perspective, because they understand, they empathize what you are going through. They empathize. Usually correlates with emotion. Empathy is the familiarity, the understanding of an emotion. So when you empathize with someone, it's, hey, I'm familiar with the feeling you're going through. You're not alone. you are valid for feeling this way. And then they can offer their advice. But if someone doesn't even empathize with you, they don't know what to do because they do not understand what you're going through. It's alien to them. It's foreign to them. If I don't understand what you're saying to me, I don't speak your language. If I don't know what you're saying to me, I cannot respond in a way that will make sense to you. It will not be anything meaningful. If you speak to me in Mandarin Chinese and I respond with, I don't know what you're saying, you don't even know that I don't know what you're saying because you don't know what I'm saying. But you know what you're saying. So when you need something, you'll go to someone else who speaks Mandarin Chinese because they understand what you're saying. Now, on a deeper level with emotions, you just find someone who has felt what you've felt before or is at least capable of putting themselves in a headspace to feel that feeling in their imagination. And obviously, not everyone has to go through what you've gone through to understand what you're going through. They can go through something similar, or they can just study it and understand it that way. It's all about their own experiences. But if you're ever feeling invalidated, just know that if you weren't allowed to feel a certain way, you would not be able to feel that way. You're allowed to feel down and up. You're allowed to feel like everything's all around, right? A state of mania. You're allowed to feel like you've been wronged. You are allowed to feel like you've wronged someone. Whatever you do, your emotions are valid, but it's your actions you have to be careful with. When you love someone, there is a string that connects you two together. Some people call it bridges. Everyone you meet, you get a string for or a bridge for, right? And you don't want to cut that string or burn that bridge because it takes a while to build back or string back. So if your bridge is on fire, ask yourself, is it truly worth letting this burn? If you're always the one who has to say sorry, you're always the one who has to go get a bucket of water to put the fire out, and you're tired of it, ask yourself if that bridge is truly worth letting become ash before you decide to say fuck the bucket and fold your arms. And pardon my language. It isn't about you. That's selfish to make it about you. It's subjective to make it about you and your emotions. It's valid to have emotions. It is invalid to act solely on behalf of your emotion without reason. We are brilliant beings. We were gifted the ability to reason. We should always use that. Rationality is using reason to handle and guide your emotions. Suppress them where they need to be suppressed, express them where they need to be expressed, but always be able to navigate them. It's discretion. Exercising discretion where it's necessary, which is everywhere, on your emotions. Think, I feel this way. I have identified that I feel this way. Can I identify why I feel this way? This is why I feel this way. I'd like to address this. And you can address it in a way that does not bring harm to the other person involved, mentally, emotionally, physically, anything. You can objectively tackle an issue and find a solution, but only when you step back and identify my feelings are instinctual. They are a base form in a language that I have to work to decode. And in this base form, I can pick out certain things, and once I learn to read it, I can identify when, why, and how I feel something, and then act rationally accordingly. So never be afraid to say that you're sorry when you're sorry. You can stand your ground and be apologetic for something that you did, but still objectively have your point to make. You can disagree with someone, but understand, because you love them, that you don't want to hurt them. There doesn't have to be a heated argument. And it is very hard to make an objective point when there is the flame of war between you. It lets off a lot of smoke. It suffocates your thoughts. Don't let the heat get in the way of your relationship. You can step onto the bridge with that person, that bridge, that connection between you, that string. You can step and connect with them and say, hey, I am grateful to have you. I am appreciative of you being in my life, but I disagree that you did this, and here is why. And I feel this way, and I do not like that. And they can say, I am sorry that I made you feel that way. I appreciate you as well. I'm grateful for you as well. Let's work together on how we can move forward, and both of us can compromise, can come to a state of understanding. Compromising and settling are two completely different things. Settling is left unsatisfied. Compromising is completely fair. Settling and compromise are two forms of balance, but it is negative and positive balance, respectively, with negative being settling, positive being compromising. Here's why. If two people are walking and they agree to walk at the same pace, one person is walking very fast, the other is walking very slow. Settling is the fast person slowing completely down to the slow person's pace when he wants to move faster, and simply moving slowly without agreeing that he wanted to move slowly, without being comfortable moving slowly. He's only doing it to appease the slow walker. Compromising is the fast and the slow walker coming to an agreement actively through communication to an understanding that one wants to move a little slower, one wants to move a little faster, so they can meet in the middle of their paces. Right? Settling would also be the slower person having to raise their speed to walk with the faster person. It's not just slowing down, it is also speeding up. Both of those are settling if it makes you uncomfortable and it hasn't been communicated. And it can also be a form of compromise when they agree to walk at one of their paces and not change one of the paces, right? If the slow person says, hey, fast person, you're moving too fast. I'm not comfortable moving any faster than I am. The faster person can say, thank you for making me aware. Now that I know this, I'll slow down. I'm used to walking faster, but I think I could actually appreciate a little bit of a stroll. So it slows down and walks at the same pace as the slow person, and that's still a compromise, because there was communication and discretion. And the same thing with, hey, slow person, I'm trying to get somewhere, and we agreed to go together. Let's pick up the pace, Slow person can say, hey, I wasn't being mindful of my own pace. I'm sorry. Catches up and they move a little faster, right? Both of those are compromise, because there was an exercise of discretion, of communication, of trust, of understanding. They took measures to put themselves on the same page. We're gifted with language. We're brilliant creatures. We have a tool where we can communicate with each other, and therefore we can put ourselves on the same page, but only if both parties are willing to listen. If someone keeps running from you when you try to speak with them, they will never be on the same page, because they're not even in the book. They don't care about the book. That's what that shows, is that they don't value the book as much as you do. And if they absolutely refuse to listen 10 times out of 10, you can close the book. Do what's best for you. Say, I don't think it's good if we read this together then, you know? And if they're not even willing to hear that, well, then that's something that they're just not willing to hear. That's something on them. You have no responsibility in that. But if they're willing to listen, you guys can discuss pacing. You can discuss swapping, taking turns. Pardon. If you're interested in the book as it is, if you want to switch to a different book, right? And obviously, I'm using books as terms with relationships. If you think we're on the same page, let's pursue romance, or we're on the same page, let's pursue friendship. Those are two different books, but it's still understanding. It's still love, friendly love, platonic love, romantic love. If someone isn't willing to hear your words, you cannot make them hear it. If they're not willing to listen, actively listen, comprehend, you cannot make them hear it. And it is sad and almost unfair. I shouldn't say almost, it is actually rather unfair. Because it puts you in a position where you can't compromise. You cannot positively get to the same page. The only way you can get to the same page in that regard is to settle. And say, all right, well, let's just do it and not talk about things. That's not healthy. Now, when you love someone romantically, that two-person love, that societal romance, it's just the person that understands you the most that you understand the most. And that's why people say, when they're the one, there's a click, there's a connection. Because you immediately enter a state of understanding. And when the state of understanding is strong enough, the time that you've spent together doesn't matter. When someone truly understands what you've gone through because of what they've gone through, the moment they meet you, that can be expressed. And there's an immediate deep connection and level of understanding. There is love in that. And I truly believe that by being wounded, by being broken down and scarred, when you get back up, that's how you can love strangers. Because you understand the traumas, the evils, the darknesses of the world, but you also understand at this point that it is good. That there is evil, but there is good. That there is darkness, but there is light. That there is trauma, but there is joy and recovery. These are all things that happen. And loving strangers is just understanding that bad things happen. And understanding that those people have their own lives, their own pains and traumas. And maybe they don't have as many scars as you, but they still probably have scars. There's a belief that everything happens for a reason. And I don't really find myself convinced of that. As a matter of fact, I believe just the opposite. I believe everything happens for absolutely no reason. That absolutely nothing happens for a reason. Now everything has a cause, right? There's cause and effect, and that's how everything happens. Therefore, everything happens technically for a reason, the reason being that cause. In that regard, it's sensible, but most people refer to it as, this happened with the purpose to teach you this, to do this to you. It was almost scripted. I don't believe in that. I think it's much more sensible to believe everything happened by complete accident. You had to sort it out. And if you're strong enough, you do sort it out. But I do understand that hearing things like that is reassuring. And that's the point I want to make, is that reassurance is so valuable. Reassuring someone. Letting them know, hey, you feel this way. Therefore, you can feel this way. You can feel this way, therefore you have permission to feel this way. And knowing that it's not wrong to feel something makes it a little more comfortable to feel that thing. And one of the biggest things about that is that we live in a society where it's not so accepting of certain emotions. We live in an area, pardon, an era, we live in an era where you can tap your phone screen and see people smiling and automatically assume they must have the greatest life. Why am I stuck in misery? You don't see them outside of that picture. They might be miserable even more than you. Do you not post pictures smiling? It's so wonderful to know that you're allowed to feel certain emotions, and you are allowed to feel every emotion that you feel. Every feeling you feel is valid because it happens. At the most basic level, it happens, therefore it can happen. You feel it, therefore you can feel it. And the ability to feel it the ability to do something, can feel it, means that you have permission to feel it by the laws of nature. Right? If there's a law of nature, it happens. It just happens. If it wasn't allowed to exist, it wouldn't exist. So we live in a society where it's so easy to think that sadness and hopelessness and anger are all unreasonable things because everyone around you seems to have a great life and you're frustrated because you seemingly don't. But the only person who knows that is you, unless you open yourself up to other people. And when you find someone who understands you right off the bat, you think, all right, I can open up myself to this person because they just seem to know what's going on. So it makes me feel a little more comfortable to talk to them about it. That's love. And it only grows. Love is undying. Because once you understand something, you understand it. Therefore, if you once loved somebody, you still love the idea of that person in the form that it was once loved. People change. That personality trait may have died. You still love that because love is undying. True love, true understanding never dies. Once you understand, you cannot overstand. You can't not understand what you understand. And that's how the universe grows and knows and shows through you and everyone around you. Some people won't understand. That's okay. You can't make them understand. That's one of the hardest things to deal with, is that you understand something and you're trying so hard to get your point across, but they just don't understand. It's not your responsibility to make them understand. You said what you needed to say, and if they didn't hear it, it's on them. Being reassuring can have such a lasting effect, but every day when you get up, you return to a default emotion. Choose whether you want that default to be good or bad. Every day is a reset button. And therefore, any reassurance you get the day before is out the window when you wake up. And if your reset button is something bad, it really makes that reassurance seem almost meaningless. And that can have an effect on the person who gave you that reassurance. It can make them feel like they aren't good enough because you're not improving and they're trying. Well, just communicate with them. Say, hey, I acknowledge that you're being reassuring and it actually helps a lot in the moment. But it's just, I have parts of me I need to work on, and when I wake up, I don't know why I reset to this mindset. And they could say, "Hey, that's okay. Thank you for letting me know that. Thank you for communicating that with me and making me aware." It's all about communication. It is the foundation of understanding. If you understand what someone's gone through, but you never once talked to them, you don't know that that's what they've gone through. Therefore, you don't understand that person. You can understand strangers generally. And that's unconditional love, is when you understand yourself, and that because you've gone through so many things, other people have also gone through so many things. Therefore, they are deserving of the reassurance you can give them even as a stranger, of the unconditional love and kindness you can give them even as a stranger, right? Just smiling at the cashier, right? She has to smile for her job. You don't have to smile because you're buying a coffee or something. That cashier has to smile, but you don't know if when they go home, if they're having issues. You don't understand exactly what is happening, but you understand that they have a life. And that love is unconditional for those strangers. Now, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, you should marry your best friend. Or at least your best friend should be your partner should be your best friend. Something along the lines of that. And in a sense, I completely agree. Actually, in all senses, I completely agree. Because love is just a state of understanding, and so is friendship. And so marriage is just a way to say, hey, this is the person who understands me the most. Therefore, they should just be the greatest level of friendship. There are people who you love, who you do not want to pursue romantically. Maybe because you don't want to pursue them sexually. That's totally valid. That's fair. There are people in my life who I can definitively say I have love for, of all types of people, all genders, races, ethnicities, you name it. There are people in my life who matter to me, who understand me, and who I understand. Therefore, people who I love. Do I plan on marrying any of them? Not right now. And when you truly love the person you're with, and you understand the person that you're with romantically, you understand that the people they say I love you to other than you aren't a threat. You understand that. And if you don't, then the two of you are not in love. You're not in an understanding. You may be very attracted to someone. Attraction is a very deceitful force. It's useful, biologically and all that, but it's very deceiving. See, attraction is an emotion, it's a feeling, it's an instinct. Love is reason. Love is a state of understanding. So when you're attracted to someone, maybe you're so attracted to them intellectually, mentally, emotionally, sexually, physically, everything, totally attracted. But you just can't get on the same page. You're just not on the same wavelength, no matter what you do. You're not in love. You're not in love. Even if they reciprocate that, if you guys can't get on the same page, you're not in love. Because love is just a state of understanding. And I will say that as many times as it takes to make sense. When I say I love you, what I say is, I understand you. I acknowledge you. I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you. I see who you are. I know you. I understand you. Love and understand are synonyms. right? Sex, some people, when you're in love, you call it making love. You are just physically understanding one another. You are exploring and knowing and feeling each other's bodies physically. So it's a state of physical understanding when you're making love. You could say you know them inside out. Mental and emotional and spiritual understanding. They're crucial just as much as the physical understanding. Attraction is powerful, and you should not undermine it. It's useful. But don't let it deceive you. All emotions are useful, but they can all deceive you. Because when you're a passenger to them, you are not exercising discretion. You're just letting them drive you around. When you feel yourself starting to get angry, try to step back and take a deep breath and think, why am I getting mad? Don't just say, I'm mad. When you make it a sentence, it becomes a statement. When you make it a question, it becomes something you have to think about, right? Think about in literature, periods, question marks. A period closes a sentence. Question mark opens. It opens for answers, right? So you say, I'm mad. Well, you just solidified it. Now you're mad. But you say, why am I mad? And you start to think about other things than the fact that you're angry. And you may even be too distracted by those things to feel angry anymore. And if you're lucky, nah, it's not lucky. If you spend enough time, you'll find out why you were mad. With enough effort and practice and meditation, you can find out and navigate why you feel ways when you feel those ways. Those ways, that way, whatever. Meditation, I've said it many times, is not thoughtlessness. It's not clearing the minds in the sense of wiping it clean. I'm going to repeat myself here. It's clearing as in seeing it clearly. It's not making it blank. It's making it transparent, visible, easy to see and see through. It is spending time with you and getting to know you, because then you become good company. And when you love yourself, it is unconditional to love others. Easily. Attraction can give you butterflies. And people seem to love butterflies. But butterflies make you act irrationally. Butterflies are an emotion. That tingling sensation that something is right. Have you noticed that that's the exact same sensation? Twisted, when something is wrong, they both happen in your gut. Except it's less of a tingle and more of a sting. Well, in time, those butterflies either die or go away. But they're not there anymore. And that is what you should be happy with. You see, butterflies are poison. They make you feel good when you feel good. But when they're not there, they leave you wondering, what the hell did I do wrong? And it's awful. See, there are no butterflies in understanding. There are butterflies in attraction. There are no butterflies in understanding. When you understand someone, you feel comfort. The opposite of butterflies is comfort. It's not the pain, right? The opposite of butterflies isn't the vacancy of butterflies. It's comfort. It's steadiness instead of high highs and low lows. That's what butterflies do. They give you high highs and low lows, and honestly, the highs seem so worth it when you're in the highs, but the lows seem so unworth it when you're in the lows. And when you're in a high, you want to cherish it. You want to relish that moment. You don't want to cut it off in a high, because you know it won't last forever and you want to keep it. But when you're in a low, you can't leave because you feel like crap and you can't cut it when you feel that bad. and it's vicious. The best time to try to communicate is in the high. The good news is you can communicate and get better if they're willing to communicate with you. You can steady that out. You can let the butterflies go away in time instead of die, right? The butterflies only die when you cut it off, and that's when it feels the worst. It's when it stings for a long time because the attraction was snipped. But you can come to a state of understanding, and the butterflies will fly away. They'll be gone. They won't be dead. They'll be gone, and they won't come back. There's a difference between high highs and low lows and steadiness with bad days. Stability is comfort. And there are bad days. People have bad days. Sometimes it's really rough to get out there and be a human. But it's different from high highs and low lows. High highs and low lows is constantly needing validation when you're in that low. Not reassurance, validation. Reassurance is good. You can reassure someone that they are valid, but that is not necessarily validation. Validation can be a false prophet. Beware the false prophet, right? Validation can be for bad things. You can validate, you can justify your evil behaviors by saying other people have done the same thing. If you were hurt, hurting someone else becomes less bad to you because you were hurt. Therefore, it's just natural. Well, I dare you to kill someone and tell an officer that somebody killed someone you know. Promise to still go to jail. Justification, validation, reassurance, they're different things. Justification is neutral. Justification is actually pretty subjective. You can justify anything it depends on your state of mind. Right? I'm justified for kicking the dog because it tried to murder me. But if I kick a dog because I like it, that's not very justified. Right? But it can be validated by saying that, dogs are stupid. They don't know what they don't feel it. They're dumb. They're mean. They bite people. Blah 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 blah. You can validate it, justify it. You can do it a million ways technically. Reassurance is just letting them know objectively. See, the difference is subjective versus objective. Subjective means it's personal. Don't make it personal. Don't take it too seriously. Make it objective. Objectively means it's completely not personal, it's just factual, evidential, it's whatever. Right? If it's raining, it's raining. It's only a bad day when it's raining if you hate the rain, and that's making it subjective. And it's also a really good day if it's raining and you love the rain, but that's still making it subjective, and you always want to aim to let it be objective. Enjoy things you enjoy. You can have personal things, but when it comes to your emotions, don't let them dictate you because they are high highs and low lows. That's what emotions do. And you can be an emotional person and, wait for it, not be subjective. I'm a very emotional person because I feel a lot of emotions, but I navigate and understand those emotions. Therefore, I'm still an emotional person, but I think objectively. When something comes up, I've trained myself to think, why is this happening? And then I work on it. I can tell when something is objectively abnormal, and I trace it back to the source. And you should focus on doing the same thing. And this can be done especially through meditation. It's not pushing out thoughts, it's just letting them come and reading them as they come and just letting them do their thing to sort themselves out, right? Like, things naturally come to order in time. It'll settle in if you let it. But if you keep looking the other way and running away, It's going to stir it up. When you run, it stirs it up. Let it fall and settle in. And it's very easy not to want to do that when you've been burned in the past, but you still need the warmth of the fire or the winter is going to kill you. You know? It's if you were burned badly, it's natural to fear the fire. So natural to fear the fire. And if you fear the fire, you are valid for feeling that way. But it is invalid, it is irrational to put the fire out forever. You're gonna freeze to death. That's a cold, cold world without that fire. And if I have to spell it out, I'm talking about love, romance. If you were burned by someone, it's rational to be wary of romance again, to be cautious. It is irrational to refuse that. You can step away from the fire for a little bit. You can have a summer, right? You don't need the campfire in the summer. But just know that winter will come and it's gonna get cold. You should really try and invest some time into starting up that fire. And you don't have to get too close. That's okay. It's okay. You don't want to burn yourself. It's natural. I promise the fire doesn't want to burn you. The fire can't think. It doesn't want you to be burned. Sometimes you play with it and you get burned. That's natural. But don't be too afraid. Don't be too afraid to move forward. You can be afraid, but don't be too afraid. Acknowledge that you do need heat. You do crave heat. You crave love as a human. It's what we do. We're made of love. We're made of emotions. We crave these things. That's normal. That's validated. That's okay. That's rational. But fearing the fire and putting it out won't keep you warm. And it won't keep the other person who's around the fire with you warm. Don't they deserve to be warm too? So let the fire start up again, slowly. Let it start up again. Right? Be willing to compromise on a pace. If you really cannot watch a fire go up too fast, tell the other person starting the fire with you, say, I have this burn scar, and because of it, I'm really afraid of fire. And I know it's irrational of me to want to freeze and to make you want to freeze. But do you think that for my sake, maybe we could just slowly start to build the fire? And if they love and understand, they'll say yes. They'll say, of course. Thank you for communicating that with me. We can go at your pace. I can handle tending to the fire for you. Just be willing to grab a few logs here and there. You don't have to throw them in. Just grab a few logs and maybe hand them to me and I'll throw them in the fire if you don't want to get too close. That's okay. Until you're feeling up to it. That's okay. That's totally okay. But don't deny someone the warmth of the fire because you're afraid to get burned. Especially not yourself. Don't deny yourself that warmth. You need that warmth. And friendships and lovers, they're also in need of your warmth. You know life can get tough, right? That winter can get real cold, you know? I'm sure you know. Life really likes to kick you. Sometimes it likes to mess around and wait for you to get back up before kicking you again, instead of just getting it all over with when you're down. And it becomes really easy at that point to want to just say, well, screw it. If I'm going to get kicked again, I just want to lay down. I don't want to put in the energy to get back up. Well, please get back up. I promise you that one time, it only takes one time, and it won't happen until it does, but when it does, that's all it takes. You're going to get up and you're going to stand on your feet, and you're going to be up, and there's not going to be that kick. Now, the universe can come back and kick you again later. It's honestly, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't going to happen. I'm sure it will. But now you know that it's going to be good for at least a while when you stand up. Walk around a little bit. Take a look at where you are. Be grateful for your surroundings. Look at a cool tree nearby and say, hey, thanks, tree. You're a cool tree, Trees are cool. That's just a fact, man. Sorry. Listen, it's totally okay. And honestly, it's kind of reasonable to want to stay down to avoid being kicked again. But when you think about it, if you stay down, you can still get kicked and bruised and broken and everything else. But I promise you that having the will to keep getting up and keep fighting and moving forward it's so worth it. And a big part of it is knowing where you're going. If you have somewhere to be when you get knocked down, it gives you a reason to get back up. When you don't want to get back up, when you have nowhere to be, you don't have a purpose. You don't have a reason to get back up, So think about what you desire and decide that that's where you want to be and work for it. Even if you don't make it, you're working for it, and each time you go down, you're going to get back up. And that's so valuable. So valuable. Every time that you're hurt, ask yourself, did somebody else wound me, or am I hurting myself in their name? Ask yourself, is it logical to do this? And if you can't check yourself, find someone who can, and then don't be mad at them when they check you. The most empathetic people are often the least sympathetic because they understand, because they've gotten back up. They've had pain and suffering, and they got up and kept walking. They understand what you've gone through because they've probably gone through it. And they're not sorry for you because they got through it. And they know for a fact that if they got through it, then you can get through it too. And they know you deserve to get through it, and the only one stopping you is you. Now, don't take that the wrong way. You can move slowly. That's not stopping. That's still progress, and that is amazing. But don't stop, and don't regress. If your past is constantly in front of you, it's your future. Turn around. Turn yourself around, your mindset around, and move forward and away from the past. Understand yourself. Love yourself. And understand and love others too. You can love others without loving yourself. When someone knows you better than you know yourself, that's a thing. Some people don't know themselves very well at all. The number one person in your life should be you, and you should look out for that, for yourself. You should love yourself and understand yourself. And you should work on that, even if there are people in your life who love and understand you more than you love and understand yourself. The fact that they love and understand you means it's capable for you to be loved and understood. And that's reassuring. So The next time you start to feel driven by emotion, try to take a step back, away from the lens of being subjective, and look at it from an outside perspective. When you see two people arguing, you can usually tell, hey, that person said something really, really rude and irrational. They were out of line. You know? So think about that as if you were watching yourself and someone else argue. And think, oh man, I said something rude and out of line. And never be afraid to tell someone that you appreciate them and that you're grateful for them and that you value their relationship with you and that you are sorry that the bridge is on fire. Grab a bucket of water, pour it out. And honestly, sometimes you'll get a bucket of water, but the flame is too far over on the other side and you can't reach it, and they have to get a bucket of water to put it out. If they refuse, then the bridge burns, but that's not your fault. It's important to remember that that's not your fault. Sometimes the fire just spreads too far too fast. But you should really consider if it's worth not being able to access that person before you kick the bucket away and fold your arms and decide not to get a bucket of water for that fire. So, I hope you're reflecting, because reflection is how you find out things. It's how you see things about yourself and others around you. Thank you for listening to me. And believe me when I say, if you keep getting up, one day it'll be better, or at the very least a little less bad. And it may not seem like something worth looking forward to for now, but trust me, when you're there you'll be grateful. But you can start by being grateful today. Tell someone you love them and that you are thankful for them. Thank you.